the other thing I did was I tried
He tried.
to get used to the new toy. Got a hitbox.
Ah, I was wondering. I felt like this was inevitable.
Yeah, I got a hitbox. And for those who aren't familiar, this is a leverless joystick. So what
It's a
it
way to
is,
cheat in fighting games.
yeah, sure. It is basically it's like an arcade stick, except the red buttons you see over here are the directional buttons that you tap. So they kind of serve the purpose of WASD. You know, that's pretty much it. And we've talked about it a bunch recently, but it's like, yeah, it's a way for you to, if you're gonna get like wrist pain from, like, you know, controller or arcade stick usage, this can help you in that regard. Some people also are just preferred keyboard users. I'm not one of them. But I'm just curious to like feel it out, and I took it for a test run, and I can say this with characters that do like Hadoken motions, you can get there and be like, okay, yeah, this is not too different. Just gotta, you know, remap a little bit of your brain for like the up button, but you can still
not quite as intuitive.
So the up button not being above the other directions where the W key would be on your keyboard is like, it's interesting because it's like, even though it's supposed to be there, it's like it's placed kind of out of the way, because in most fighting games jumping is a rarer thing anyways, you know, like it's almost like, hey, you're not gonna be pressing up as much as you're gonna be pressing back, down, and forward, therefore it's just gonna rest where your thumb is, and you don't have to like move away from the three most essential keys, you know. In reality, so it's fun. It's kind of fine. But you have to adjust when you're playing, like, again, a motion character. A charge character, which is where the entire like benefit of not having to return the stick to neutral comes into play. A charge character like a Blanca, my brain hurts trying to reacclimate what I'm supposed to press.
Really? I figured it would have been the opposite.
It's so hard. It's like learning a stick for the first time again, but worse, because like you're like the thumb being down there is just, it's anti-intuitive, and you have to work it into being an intuitive thing. And charge motions,
I was thinking left, right. I was not thinking up, down.
yeah, because here's the thing.
Yeah, because down is now above up.
Yeah. And
Ooh.
not just that, but you are never charging with a charge character in a fighting game. You're never really just charging neutral down into
you're
neutral
back,
up.
always.
You're always going down back, right? And in a lot of cases, you're going down back to up forward, down back to forward. You know, you're kind of picking which one to do. But it's just weird, and I can tell that with practice and time, you will get used to it. But there were moments that, like, I was playing like Street Fighter V, and I was just using Blanca, and I was just trying to mess around with it in that kind of context. And I played like Nago in Strive for a second, and I was like, fuck this, no way. It's too much going on there. But with using Blanca, it's like, do you know that feeling when like you hit a puzzle and Baba is you, and like you can physically feel your brain struggling?
Yeah, no, I know the exact emotion you're describing.
That was happening multiple times per round, and I was like, this hurts. It hurts to stop and go, okay, wait, down, back, up, forward, fuck, right? And Blanca in 5 also has a V trigger, which involves you having to do a lightning rolling attack in all 8 directions. And to keep the combo going, you have to pick the right direction to move it in. So it's just like, it just hurts. It hurts.
So, I'm going to apologize for the non-visual listeners at home, but I hope that my audio description is going to do justice. So Wooly, there's this thing called a keyboard.
Mm-hmm.
You might have heard of it. I think you
Mm-hmm.
might have. I'm holding up what's called a keyboard in front of the screen right now.
Yes.
It's got keys on it.
Yes.
Also, historically, it's paired with what's called a mouse.
Right.
So when you play on the keyboard, usually you would have your ring, middle, and index finger on W, A, D, and maybe down for S, and you would use your thumb to hit what's called the space bar. It's the really big button at the bottom.
Right.
And that's what's being used as the up in this situation. Now, I know that you have played nearly exclusively shooters and PC games on a controller, but some people have actually used this keyboard device, and that's what the Hitbox is trying to emulate.
Yes.
In terms of where that up button is.
Yes, as we've said across perhaps 6 episodes now, when we've been discussing it in the last 2-3 months.
I'm just assuming you need a refresher because your preferred method is this fucking controller mouse abomination.
Sure. That's not the point. The point is that it emulates the placement of a space bar by resting your thumb in the natural position where that would be. However, in a fighting game when you have to roll towards that direction or switch immediately from down back to up forward, and you're going against years of what your hand is used to doing, the process of rerouting those synapses in your brain is...
If only there were games that let you use the keyboard to play them, you would have been able to map some of these neurons before.
I'm confused as to where we're going here. What's wrong with what I'm saying?
The joke that I'm making is that Wooly doesn't know how to use keyboard for video game.
Okay.
Therefore,
yes.
box hard.
Fair. I have used keyboard on some LPs and I've struggled with it. Sure. However, I still think in the way that you've played fighting games for your entire life, it still is pretty different from what you're used to. And there is an interface struggle with what you're used to. Even if you're used to keyboard.
Oh, absolutely.
You're not... Some people have played keyboard fighting games, and in most of those cases, they're using W as their up, as opposed to spacebar to jump. I don't know anyone who uses the keyboard as a fighting game tool that is using spacebar as the jump button, usually. But the resting hand position makes sense.
I have to say, as a fighting game man on this podcast, it was probably only a matter of time for you. I had assumed you would have already had a Hitbox. I know you had the keyboard weirdo version,
the Mixbox. Yeah.
I kind of assumed you already had one because you like sticks and you like these kinds of, fringe kind of control methods. It is a cool little gimmick. I'm torn as to whether or not I should even bother getting one because I probably won't end up using it. Like I have played so much on stick at this point, and it was hard for me to learn stick. But I have to say, I do think it's very brave of you to have we both follow High Fight on Twitter, right? And you saw High Fight post that clip of Guile throwing out just instantaneous supers, and then we had those Street Fighter 6 matches in which I blew you up, and you were like, maybe this will be the way. Maybe that'll be the way to do it. Everyone's arguing about whether or not Hitbox is cheating.
That is.
And you're like, maybe I can cheat.
Maybe that's the edge I was missing the entire time. Well, I will have to see how hard I can cheat with it and let you know. Ultimately, I don't think I'll be switching to this as a primary method of control. If I ever start getting
too old to do it.
If I ever start getting wrist pain, I will force myself to, because that's not a matter of that's not preference anymore. That's a fucking health issue, and I don't want to. If I start feeling wrist pain in like this phase of my life, then it's definitely not going to improve as you go forward.
When we were like 22 or something, oh, my wrist hurts a little bit. Quit being a pussy. All right, that worked. But now that we're old mans, no, don't ignore anything.
So if I ever do start feeling wrist pain, I'm probably going to switch over to this. But it's stressful, man. It's stressful, and it'll probably with time, because the thing is like tournament players that have switched over to it, like everybody had to do this relearning process and eventually landed on the other side, and once they do, they tend to swear by it, you know.
I've been playing stick since 2005, 2006. I don't know how long. Like
everybody,
a long time.
Yeah, all tournament players that have made the switch, they tend to swear by it immediately, you know. And I know, like, even Reggie's like, he's excited to like be like, oh shit, he wants to learn how to play it as well and stuff. And it's gone from being a niche thing that shows up like one guy at the tournament would have it, to now like being a little, like maybe like 40% of players sometimes you'll see like whipping out something like that. Like it's become quite constant and frequent to see. And yeah, I also think the weird part about it is that it's also like character specific, you know, depending on what your character has to do. I think it'll be easier or harder using a hitbox. You know,
like for example, I mean, doing a 720 on a hitbox in like 10 frames is probably way easier than doing it on a stick.
I mean, the idea of a 360 being like roll your fingers across 4 buttons is way easier.
At the same time, man, I've done a lot of 720s on an arcade stick.
Yeah. Also, you know how like doing a super motion is just a little bit easier naturally going from player 2 side than it is on player 1 side? Yeah. Because the force of your wrist going inward is weaker than it is going outward. So in this case, it's just a matter of just twiddle these 2 fingers or twiddle these 2. You know what I mean? Like, it's just down, forward, okay, you're good. No problem. So things like that become completely even on both sides as well. But a character like Nagoriyuki, who requires a fuck ton of quarter circle inputs and DP inputs alternating with each other in a row, I wouldn't switch over to this. It would be interesting though, because now considering I play partially on pad, partially on stick, like I would like to be able to function with this just so that I can future-proof.
So when I was playing Street Fighter 6 on pad, I have not played a fighting game on pad in 15 years. And I was like very confused at how easy it was for me to go back to playing on pad. Like it required like some relearning, obviously, a little bit, and I had some failed inputs, but it was not
doable.
Nearly as, and I'm like, man, like I obviously want my stick for Street Fighter 6, but I could totally just play on pad if I wanted.
As somebody who fucking built fight sticks from scratch, I am really happy that it's entirely optional now. You know, there were like fight sticks as a initially people thought they were like a gate kept thing where they're like, you'll never get good at fighting games unless you get one of these, and it's like, no, you know, not at all. You absolutely can. You can. It's just whatever you're comfortable with. You want
to talk about that? I mean, let's talk about the reality that was playing fucking Marvel 2 on a fucking Dreamcast controller versus
right.
That was a different time.
Yeah. But I'm super happy that it's entirely optional now for anybody that's like, I don't have the money to invest in this. You know, that's totally reasonable. But if you do want to, or if you are used to it, or if you do want to, you know, keep that arcadey feeling to it, which is fun. I like. There's something really pleasant about just doing this. You know, that feels fun.
Is that I used to get hand pain playing video games. And at some point, I just stopped gripping controllers nearly as hard. Like, I got a relaxed grip, and I'm like... Because you mentioned hand pain about, like, arcade sticks. It's like, once I moved to an arcade stick, all possible hand pain from playing on a pad disappeared immediately.
Yes.
Like, I'm super, super relaxed playing on an arcade stick.
So, wrist pain... like, it can... depending on how you play, wrist pain can be very extreme on a pad for, like, the amount of things you have to input versus on a stick where you can kind of like have your hand a little bit more relaxed. Like if you're playing a game that requires you to press triangle and X at the same time,
Yeah.
fuck off,
Like,
right? Like weird moments
like
like that are going to be awkward for your button pressing or square and circle.
You and Paige both have the exact same thing going on, where I still remember Paige like white knuckled the fucking PS4 pad so hard during Ludwig in Bloodborne that she couldn't hold a controller for like 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen clips of you playing, and like I can hear the plastic creaking
Mm-hmm.
when you're like, I'm like, y'all both need to relax, man.
Dude, like I can tell you exactly where that comes from. Like how many dropped supers before you realize that going harder, faster, and tighter makes it work more consistently. You know, and then you start doing every input tighter because
what's funny?
It won't drop. If you try to lightly do a double quarter circle sometimes in the middle of a combo, you're going to drop it and be like, that sucks. And you're like, fuck, what do I need to do? And you're just like, do it faster, do it tighter, and do it harder.
Yeah,
and now you get more consistent.
You mentioned that because that exact experience is what got me to slow down and chill out. Because when I started playing on stick, I was mashing inputs out so fast that I was getting tons of input errors. Like the issue wasn't that I wasn't doing it in time. The issue is that I was doing it so quickly that I completely botched the input entirely and was hitting shit out of order. Like, you know that thing where you try and do a fireball, but somehow a fucking up gets in there?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
you're doing it so fast.
Yes.
And so like fucking loose. So as soon as I started to calm down, like my input game improved dramatically.
So for me, calming down helps when you're doing a raw input, right? Mm-hmm. So if you're just going straight into that sequence, it's no problem. If you're one frame linking 3 crouching light kicks into an ultra, you don't have that leeway.
I will still do that.
Yeah, exactly, right? Furthermore, if you're trying to do a on reaction, the moment I see you start to do a fireball, all like super to punish that, you don't get to casually do a 2/4 circles. That is I see you start the fireball animation, I'm reacting to it instantly. That requires split-second input. So being better at reacting to things and tighter inputs requires you to do them faster, and doing them clean is ultimately the best way to do it, which is what professionals will have you do. But it's like, that's why you can play these games until you're a professional and learn to do them clean. There's a limit to how clean I can get with my inputs given my abilities, but that is why I kind of ended up on that side. You know what this whole conversation makes me think about? It makes me think about Bayonetta, and it makes me think about Devil May Cry. You know what? One of the biggest difference between those two is, man, there is not a single fucking strict input in that whole fucking game. Like everything is just loose as shit. Like, do you want to do a circle and then hit the button? Do you want to wait like a full second? Yeah, it'll come out. Don't worry. Just chill out. Like, versus it'll happen. Versus exceeding and max acting. Yeah. And just release. Like, yeah, it's none of that shit. No, get out of here. Yeah, man, some people make their games to have taunt jet upper in it. You know what I mean? Like, Tekken is just like, they're like, nah, we don't give a fuck. You gotta do this, do it clean, do it precise, and wait for exactly this many frames. Do you want it to be electric or not? No, I'm just trying. I'm like, oh no, that's a choice. You're making a choice to not do this what is it, 1/60th of a frame input for electric? Whatever it is. Nonsense. Not even electric. Taunt jet upper with Brian Fury. Madness. But just a caveat though, that the hitbox style arcade stick as a means of avoiding wrist pain is also not 100%, because some people have gotten pain from using it, and like, I guess the way you kind of rest your hands. So I saw like saying that Stayjam fucked his fingers up playing with one, because if you're playing fucking Gold Lewis and you're rolling Behemoth Typhoons, think about that, right? In this Behemoth Typhoon, I break your fingers. you're rolling across all those direction buttons in every possible order aggressively, you know, and in some cases you're doing them back to back to back to back. It would be, yeah, I would imagine comparable would be like, again, Nago, where I've never had to play a character that had that many quarter circles and DPs like back to back to back to back, you know. So you got to be careful with it. Anything aggressively with your hands in a anything in repetition is going to wear your hands down no matter what position, you know. Using the keyboard even can probably after a point do some damage.
You know, it's a really good example actually. So I've told both of these separately, but like you're talking about like no controller setup is perfect for everyone in terms of hand pain, right? There are 2 games that I had to stop playing because they physically damaged me. Assassin's Creed Black Flag, the way that they want you to hold down the right trigger in that game gave me frozen shoulder.
I remember.
They want you to hold down the Xbox trigger at literally all times, or it was the PlayStation at the time, and it fucked my shoulder up. And then fucking Guild Wars 2, well, a game that I actually really like. The only real functional way to turn your camera is to click the right mouse button down and spin and, you know, move your mouse. And you want to be doing that at all times, which meant that like 80-90% of the time I was playing Guild Wars 2, I was holding down the right mouse button, and that fucked my wrist up so bad.
Did that access a shortcut menu?
No, it's just to turn the camera. It's just to activate free look.
Oh, fuck. Okay. Yeah.
And it's weird because like holding down the right mouse button like that, you wouldn't think that, you know, it's with my fucking middle finger. You wouldn't think that that would do it. Well, I was playing like 6 hours a day for like a couple weeks, and it just fucking fucked my whole wrist up. They fixed that years ago. Okay, that's
toggle.
Great.
Yeah, toggle would be good.
Is it a toggle now? What is it? Someone in the chat explain it to me so that I can talk about it like I know.
I mean, I'm thinking of playing Reinhardt back in the day as well, like holding up that shield. Though, did they put an accessibility option on? I feel like there was an accessibility option on to toggle it. But there was a point where it was like, oh shit, yeah.
Oh man, dude, this might be my favorite thing is when you go, oh, did they fix it? And then you look over and people go,
yes.
Yeah, they kind of fixed it, but the action camera breaks some of the abilities and it sucks for ranged characters. Okay, sounds like they didn't fucking fix it then, huh? The number one reason I started playing FF14 is because I get to use a fucking gamepad. No matter how much I play that game, it doesn't hurt my hands.
Yep. Of course, if you are looking to avoid any of this whatsoever, you can always just use modern controls in Street Fighter, and you'll get yourself a little Smash Brothers style input. And there you go.
I want to see the there's a third control option, right? The baby
dynamic.
Mode,
dynamic.
Dude, I want to see it so bad.
I think dynamic. I think what it is going to be is stylish mode from Exerd. So,
okay, dude. Oh man.
Guilty Gear Exerd had something called stylish mode, and it just made your attack button context sensitive. So if you were up close and you mashed it, you would do a combo, and if you were further away, you would do a ranged attack, and it was just completely like a context sensitive button, and all you're really responsible for is the positioning of your character.
So there was a dumb meme, and I think Hi-Fi posted it or retweeted it, and it was a bell curve. And on that bell curve was on the beginner end, and on the total expert end of fighting games was LOL, I'm just pressing buttons.
Yes.
And in the middle was, oh, okay, do I have to cancel this?
Yeah. The same thing.
Yeah, cognitive load.
And
what these control options are going to enable is people to select their cognitive load. And I can't wait for good players, I'm using air quotes right now, good players to get their asses blown out by like children using dynamic mode, because the kids can just relax and focus on, oh, he's unsafe, I'll hit him.
It is quite interesting. The other thing being the beginners and experts being like, LOL, this character looks cool, I don't know. and at the top of the mountain is okay, but they have this on plus, and So the one thing though about that, and this is like to rip it back down to reality, I know that there's at least one element that is not parallel between classic and modern controls. Is supers on modern do less damage.
Oh, well, yeah. Okay.
And
yeah,
right?
They're faster.
Exactly. You get it right away. You completely understand. It is better. You might be like, what?
Yeah,
why?
okay.
And it's like, no, it's fair. Because if you have to react instantly,
they're better
to one button versus a full motion as described before, you've earned it. So that makes a difference. Yeah.
Like if I know that I can fire out a super fireball on a button press, I can just sit there, and the instant I see your fucking arm move one frame, I can hit that button on reaction.
Yeah. That's a different world in terms of you're getting a stronger character out of the situation, you know. And this kind of ties.
If you want the ultimate proof of this, go look at videos of Super Street Fighter 4 on the fucking Nintendo 3DS.
Yep.
Where Sonic Boom is a button.
You can tap to do a Sonic Boom or tap to do a flash kick, and so you can just walk forward, and then if someone jumps, you do a flash kick, and you're like, okay, well, that's the end of the game.
If you want to play the most fucked up version of one of the best games of all time, go fucking track down a version of CVS2 Easy Operation, where they map fucking
Geef 720
to the fucking
to the C stick. Yeah. Like, something that is not immediately obvious about fighting game moves is that, like, the amount of time it takes to do them is often balanced in how good they are, you know? So, like, the ability to, like, walk forward and you can't do a flash kick because you've stopped charging down. But if you're playing Ryu, someone jumps at you, you can be like, oh, okay, I can do a Shoryuken now, you know? But, like, that or just going, someone jumped, press a button. Don't think about it. It's automatic. That mental stack is a whole level easier to deal with, you know.
Hey,
so